we can use our time wisely. So good to see everyone and welcome. All right, I think we're probably good, Melissa. Yes? All right. Welcome, everyone. It is so good to see you all. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today. So today we are going to spend about the next hour in our spring learning webinar for NODA. This is a first, so welcome and really nice to see everyone here today. For those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jeff Brown. I'm serving as your NODA president. I'm also the assistant vice president and dean of students at American University here in Washington, D.C., and I use he and him pronouns. And again, thank you for taking the time to be here today. Next slide, please. So a little bit of a overview of how we're going to spend the day, and I realize you all may be coming here with a lot of questions, and we are certainly going to try to devote a significant chunk of our time to answer the questions that are out there. Me, along with several of our presenters, are going to quickly give you an overview of spring learning, also talk a little bit about the dates and locations for 2026. Give you a little bit more specific details on the schedule for these different events, which I know many of you are waiting eagerly to hear, and then talk even more specifically about each of the 5 events that we'll have happening in the spring of 2026. And then, like I said, we'll round out our time this afternoon or this morning with some Q&A with the goal of getting all of your questions answered. I certainly encourage you, if you leave here today and think of questions afterwards, please do not hesitate to reach back out to any of us, any of the presenters. We want to make sure you have all the information you need for a successful spring learning. Next slide. Wonderful. So I've introduced myself. As I've said, my name is Jeff Brown. I'm serving as your NODA president. I see Joyce has just hopped in the space. I'm going to let Joyce do a quick introduction as well as Melissa. Hey, Joyce.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, everyone. Apologize for coming in late. I was on a flight that was delayed. I'm in Washington, D.C. for a meeting with other higher education associations. So if I'm a little frazzled, I am a little frazzled. I actually just got here. But excited to be with you all, and thank you for your interest and your engagement in spring learning. We're excited to present this opportunity with you with some fabulous leaders around the country that are helping us plan. Melissa.
Hello, everyone. Melissa Guffey. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the new Director for Conferences with NODA. Have been with NODA for going on 3 months now. And really, my job is to focus on the annual conference and this new initiative for spring learning. So excited to be with you all today.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Melissa. I also want to just call out and say a huge thank you to our co-chairs. So we have several of our co-chairs of our 5 events that'll be happening. You will hear from them, but just so you maybe get a visual, can any of the co-chairs on the call please just raise your virtual hand so people can see who you are? Wonderful. Thank you all. And again, a huge thank you. I know this has been a wild ride. This is something new for NODA. So I really want to say thank you to all for your leadership and your expertise that you're bringing to a very new program for NODA. So again, thank you for that. So before we jump into the details, I just want to talk very, very briefly kind of how we got here. So several years ago, there was a movement within the board to move toward what we're calling our spring learning model. So this year, what you're going to see here in the details shortly is that we are moving for 2026 to having 5 spring learning events. 4 of these will be in person. 1 of these will be virtual. And again, you'll see those details here shortly. Any of our members, anyone can attend any of these different events. They are not regionally tied. So very different from our models in years past where we had anywhere up to 9 different regional conferences that obviously were geographic based. These programs for Spring Learning 26, anyone can attend at any point. It doesn't necessarily need to be the one that is closest to where your campus is. Several different reasons for this, but probably some of the bigger reasons is to make sure that we continue to provide a quality, consistent educational offering for our members. And you'll hear from the next several speakers in terms of kind of the audience for this. There will be an emphasis on the student piece for this, but again, there will also still be professional and graduate tracks for all of our spring learning events. Um, I think it's obvious this is our pilot year, so we, along with everyone on this call, are learning a lot of things as we move forward. We will love to hear your feedback once we get through the spring cycle. But more importantly, today, we want to make sure that we're sharing with you the details of spring learning, what it means for you as someone who will be participating in these, and making sure that we answer any questions that you have over the course of the next hour or so. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Melissa to allow us to dive a little bit deeper into Spring Learning 2026. So thank you all, and it's great to see everyone here today.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so hopefully these dates and locations look familiar, but if not, we have 4 in-person conference locations, starting with University of California, Irvine, February 20th through the 22nd. From there, we have 3 conferences back to back in March, starting with University of Minnesota Twin Cities. That will be held at the Graduate Hotel in Minneapolis instead of at the university. Then we will go down to Florida, a little bit warmer weather, with the University of South Florida in Tampa. And then we will come back up north to be in Maryland at Towson University. And then, of course, we want to make sure that all of our members can attend. So we do have a virtual conference, April 24th through the 25th to round out our spring learning experiences. So to help create consistency and to provide a well-rounded experience, each conference has a pretty basic template that all of our co-chairs are using. So every conference will have 1 or 2 keynotes. So we have Active Mind, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to promoting mental health. And then we have Leadership, who is very much known for, building and engaging student leaders. So we've been working with those 2 organizations to really hone in on, what we want our members, especially our undergraduate students, to get out of their experience. Every conference will have between 4 and 6 peer-to-peer learning or education sessions. 1 meal will be provided, a lunch, so we will feed you, so come hungry. There will be at least 1 evening social at each conference. Some may have more than 1. As Jeff said, the main focus is undergraduate students for spring learning, but we will have programming for grad students and professionals as well. Before I hand it off to the co-chairs who are going to introduce themselves and give you more specifics about each of the locations, the co-chairs have been working really hard to create our conference theme. We are going to reveal it here today for all of you. And our theme for our inaugural spring learning is the next chapter. This design was actually created by the University of South Florida's Planning Committee, so shout out to Liv and Savannah if they are on the call. But this conference theme is really used to kind of help guide our planning as we kind of start and make the shift as an organization, and to allow for some creativity in our marketing and to really hone in on that in-person experience. So now I'm going to turn it over to our co-chairs, and we're going to start off with Leslie, who is the co-chair, one of the co-chairs for UC Irvine.
Yay! It's so funny in a Zoom space because it's like, oh, applause. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay. I'll create my own applause. Hi, hello, NODA. My name is Leslie. My pronouns are she, her, ella, them, ella. I serve as the Transition Programs Coordinator with the Center for Student Leadership at the University of California, Irvine. And I am one of the co-chairs for the University of California Spring Learning Conference. My other co-chair couldn't be here today, but she is off enjoying her honeymoon, y'all. We love her. We're excited for her to be refreshed and come back. But her name is Paula Huang, and she serves as the associate director in the same department. So, want to just before I even jump into the schedule, I just need to make especially a shout out to all of our committee members that are in this space right now. We first and foremost, we work with the best team, and so I want to give a shout out to our committee members. If you're in the space, have a lot of love for you all. But let me talk a little bit about UC Irvine. So, UC Irvine is located in Southern California. And yes, for those of you asking, we are very close to Disneyland, if that's a factor in your decision making. And our mascot is the mighty anteater. Fun fact is that we are actually the only anteater associated with a school in the entire country. And so if you want to come on over and learn how to feel free to come join us at Spring Learning at UC Irvine. So a couple of the highlights is, as Melissa had went through, we do have Leadership and Active Minds as some of our keynotes. It'll be our opening as well as our closing. We are trying to do a service learning project, whether it's passively where people are able to bring supplies or as part of one of our socials. And speaking of socials, we will have some special socials for our undergraduate students, but don't worry, professional staff and graduate students, we did not forget about you all. We have some fun things being cooked up. We will have around 5 peer-to-peer learning sessions with an optional case study competition. One of the blocks for our peer-to-peer learning is actually going to be dedicated to undergraduates as well as to professional staff and graduate student as a block. And then the amazing thing about UC Irvine is we actually have a park in the middle of our campus. And so we want to take the time. That's why on Sunday morning, we start at 7 a.m. as an optional walk in the park to be able to reset ourselves, to be ready for all the learning that will happen that day. And the last thing I'll mention is that we are looking to have a community college specific session. So if your community college is interested in presenting about the work that you all do, we really, really encourage you all to submit for our spring learning so that we're able to have these sessions are readily available for our participants. But those are a brief overview of our schedule, and those are our times. Really excited and really hope you all want to come over to Southern California. It'll be like semi-sunny, semi-not. It's the perfect weather, but I am biased because I am Californian at heart. But thank you all again for giving me the time to speak today, and I'm really excited for you all to hear from my colleagues about their conferences as well.
Right. I don't know how we follow that up. That was amazing. Thank you, Leslie. My name is Emily Wolf, and I am an assistant director at Orientation Services at the University of Iowa, and I oversee all of our student leader related things.
Hi all, my name is Connor Weir. I'm a program coordinator at the University of Iowa in Orientation Services, and I primarily work with our parent and family programs as well as our campus partners.
Beautiful. And we are so excited to be the co-chairs for the University of Minnesota Spring Learning. Like Melissa had said, it will be on March 6th through 8th, and it will be at the Graduate Hotel in Minneapolis. So that's something that's really cool, and we're excited to explore that space as well as the University of Minnesota campus. We will have our keynote will be leadership, and we are planning to do 5 peer-to-peer learning sessions with an optional case study competition for undergraduate students.
In addition, following up with UC Irvine, we do have a special evening social for our undergraduate participants and a separate social for our graduate students and professional staff to get to know each other in the sphere prior to getting into some more of our learning opportunities. Like Melissa mentioned, we will have our lunch provided on Saturday, as well as additional opportunities to explore not just the Graduate Hotel, but also Minneapolis, getting into different opportunities downtown, seeing some different coffee crawl spaces. So a ton of fun activities for y'all in the Minneapolis sphere.
If you are still looking to get involved, maybe volunteer, if you're coming to Minnesota, please send us a message either in the chat or you can reach out to us afterwards because we would love to have your help with spring learning.
Thank you so much, y'all. We look forward to seeing you soon, and we're going to pass it off to the University of South Florida.
All right, thank you so much for that. So I'm Lindsay Owen. I'm the Assistant Director of Orientation at the University of South Florida. We have 3 campuses. So I'm located on the St. Petersburg campus, but the spring learning will be held on our Tampa campus. And that's where my co-chair, Kristen Yan, works as well. And she's one of the orientation coordinators over there. I know we have some committee members here as well. So I want to give a shout out to them because I know they're on the call. Very excited about the theme. We just got our group chat going. Very excited about our theme being chosen. So just some schedule highlights. Our keynote is going to be focused on leadership. We'll have them on both days. We'll start with them on the first day, Friday, and then we'll carry over with them into Saturday. We are hoping to do a service learning project, and we're working on making that fun too with a social aspect for you, along with 6 peer-to-peer learning sessions and the optional case study as well. And then just looking at the overall, so Friday check-in would be between 5 to 7 with programming from 7 to 10. Saturday is when it's 8:30 a.m. to 9 with programming and lunch with a fun social in the evening. We're excited about what we're looking at. And then Sunday, we're from 8:30 a.m. to noon. And I gotta follow up with Leslie. I mean, we all have great locations, but like we're over here in Florida in March. It's like the best weather you can get. I just want to point that out. The humidity hasn't come in quite yet. We're not too far from Disney World, so you can go to Disneyland in California or Disney World over here. Busch Gardens is around the corner from our campus, literally, and then we also have the beautiful beaches if you're not sold yet. But all of our locations are amazing. So I will then turn it over to Towson University.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Candace. Hope you're having a great Wednesday so far. Again, my name's Candace. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Spring Learning Conference at Towson University. Chandler Stafford is the other co-chair, and they work as the academic services coordinator at University of Maryland, Baltimore. So like it says on the screen, we're going to have our conference from the evening of Friday, March 20th through the afternoon of Sunday, March 22nd. Some schedule highlights, like our co-chairs mentioned, our previous conference chairs mentioned, we will have keynotes from Leadership, but then also Active Minds as well. And you may have heard of them because they do have chapter networks. So Towson University does have a chapter of Active Minds on campus. You can look forward to student socials with affinity spaces, but we will also have an opportunity for our graduate students and professional staff to socialize, converse, and just, get to connect with each other over the next day and a half. We will have 6 peer learning sessions over the Saturday and Sunday afternoon. So look forward to that. So I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I really want to shout out our committee. They are going to be working hard and diligently over the next few months to make sure that we give you a lovely, engaging learning experience. So I'm hoping that we will be able to see you at Towson University. And then I'm going to kick it over to Stephen to talk about the virtual conference experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Candace. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Dolan. I serve as the coordinator for orientation programs at Montclair State University in Northern New Jersey, and I'm your chair for the virtual conference taking place at the end of April, the 24th and 25th, to be exact, 2 days after my birthday. So it's going to be a good time. Some of the scheduled highlights for our virtual session, you might realize it is 2 days compared to 3 days for the other in-person conferences. But we will have keynotes from Active Minds and Leadership, one on each day. But we will also fit in those peer-to-peer educational sessions, 4 in total, taking place on that Friday, and then optional evening social by professional level. So giving pros and grads an opportunity to connect as well as undergraduates in separate spaces virtually on that Friday evening. So there's the schedule broken down into each day. It's a 12 p.m. start time on both day, and I want to stress that these times listed are in Eastern Standard Time. With the virtual experience, there's the opportunity that people are joining from around the country or even Canada. And so want to be mindful, and you can do the calculations in your head about what time that means for you, but we will start at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on both days. Friday is, I'm imagining if you're in the office on a Friday, you got your door shut, do not disturb on the door. You're in the meeting, it's 12 to 6:30, and you're locking in as if you would at a regular conference. It's really that thing you have on the calendar for that day. It's open to undergraduates, graduate students, as well as professional staff. And we'll have our keynote, the 4 peer-to-peer ed sessions, and then wrap it up with an evening social by professional level. And then Saturday, same start time, but geared more towards our undergraduate students. And it wraps up a little bit earlier, around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have a keynote and some associate member programming as well. So a little bit later than the in-person conferences, open to anyone who can or can't attend an in-person conference. And so it'll be hosted on Zoom. There's a picture of our host institution on the right. It is Zoom, and you can join from anywhere and anytime. So looking forward to seeing some of you virtually at the end of April. And I'll pass it off to our primary presenters to go into the Q&A portion.
All right, y'all. It is time. Well, one, thank you to all the co-chairs for your presentation there and all the good information. Like I said, we want to dedicate as much time as we can to answer your questions. So I'm going to do my best to attempt to moderate and facilitate the Q&A here. So let's do it either one of two ways. You can either raise your hand and I'll call on you, and you can come off of mute to ask your question, or if you'd like to drop in the chat, I'm going to do my best to try to moderate that and bring those to the group as well. So, questions? Wow, we did a wonderful job and we have no questions. I'm going to give it a few more seconds of silence because I know there's probably some out there. I want to almost say, does this thing work?
There's a couple of questions in the chat, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. I knew I'd have a problem monitoring that. Okay, first question. Are there going to be hotel blocks? I'm going to turn that either to Melissa or Joyce.
Joyce, you want to take this one?
I sure can. We are not going to have hotel blocks, just due to concerns with attrition with hotels. We're going to attempt to try to get some courtesy blocks, which means there will be some rooms available. But the other thing that we're doing is we are working with the conference hosts. And when we open registration for hotels that are close by, as recommendations for you, but I do want to share that they would not be hotels that we have vetted per se, but we will give you some options of hotels that are close by for spring learning, but we are not going to have room blocks for the conferences. And I thought there was a second question about the hotel, I think, but maybe
Yeah,
that answered.
the question from Ashton is, what are the anticipated discounted prices for the conference hotels? Um, I don't know if we can fully answer that, Joyce, but do you want to comment on that as well?
Sure, I appreciate that question. I can't answer that fully. If we get a courtesy block, the rate would be a little bit better than if we do not. I'll just use an example. One of the hotels that we're working with is willing to give us a courtesy block of not very many rooms. It's really only between 10 to 20 rooms per night, and at a discounted rate. And they did say that they would give us additional rooms if they are available, but there's no guarantee it would be at the lower rate that they're providing to us for the courtesy block. So again, we will be able to provide all of this information. Our goal is also to share hotels with you that have breakfast that are already served at their hotel, so that you can make sure that your staff and your students are fed for breakfast before you head over to the campuses for the event.
Thanks, Joyce. Also, if there are questions about dates, we are going to round out the presentation with a reminder of important dates. So we'll get to that eventually, and then if there are questions on the date, we'll take some questions at the very end on those. The next question on here from Caroline is will Rolly still be happening as something additional for undergraduates to sign up for?
I can take this one, Joyce. For this year, we are not going to have Rolly. We do have that kind of something similar to that in the planning for future years, but right now there are no specific tracks for new versus returning student leaders. And to kind of piggyback off of another question that I saw, those peer-to-peer learning sessions are ed sessions. There's flexibility with each of the co-chairs and their planning teams. So some of them might be doing their case studies during that peer-to-peer learning block, ed sessions. Discussion roundtables. So those peer-to-peer learning is just kind of a high level. This will be an educational session, but what specifically could be happening in that time frame on the schedule might look different. But for this year, there is no specific track for new student leaders or returning student leaders. Definitely want to make spring learning its own thing. But definitely something if there's an interest, we would be happy to consider that for future years and future planning.
Thank you, Melissa. Mary provided a comment saying that a general cost rundown would be helpful. I'm not sure if we have that yet, Melissa or Joyce. Are you able to comment on that?
Melissa, you're muted. I can answer that if you want me to, but go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
We will be able to provide that information when we open registration. And registration is opening next week. I'm sorry to stealing Melissa's thunder a little bit, but we'll be able to provide some more detail as we're opening registration and as we get closer to everything that we're opening. But that's a great idea, Mary. We can get that on the website. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. From Elizabeth, will some of the traditions from Shro be a part of spring learning this year? For example, t-shirts, banner, skit, song, skit, dance, step, etc.
Um, Currently, there is no specific song, skit, and dance at any of the spring learning conferences. We are looking for new traditions to have for spring learning. I am happy to turn it over to the co-chairs. If you all want to share any ideas that you have that your committees are working on as to maybe some changes or how you are maybe taking previous regional conference traditions and making those changes for spring learning. If any of our co-chairs want to talk about what you all are working on.
And before we go there, just there's a few other questions just in general about spirit competitions. Also include buttons on there to kind of handle three or so questions that are all similar.
I'm happy to jump in because I think our location has gotten the most questions on that as we are in the former Region 6, I'll say, with the Shro questions. So we are still trying with our committee to plan some fun aspects about some type of competition type aspect. However, it would not have like the prep prior to the spring learning that you experienced during Shro. And like Melissa said already, we're looking for new traditions. We haven't said absolutely no to like a swap of some kind, but again, we're trying to make it a little bit new, but still with that fun aspect, while also just respecting that this is the new chapter, which is what our theme is.
Any other the co-chairs care to chime in? Okay, if you do, just let me know. Moving on to the next question. I think we've covered the ones up until Craig here, but Craig is asking for those with leadership speakers. Is the is the programming focused on that specific curriculum, or are they more likely to serve as keynote presenters, and the peer-to-peer sessions will be focused on orientation topics?
I can take this one, Joyce. So Leadership and Active Minds both have specific curriculums. Both will be doing keynotes and they will be leading breakout sessions after their keynotes for, their specific curriculum. So those keynotes and their, you know, practice to action, as Joyce calls it, and those smaller kind of breakout sessions are in addition to the peer-to-peer sessions that our members will be leading. So for leadership, they're going to focus on how students can engage with real world experience, get some hands-on practice, figuring out their own personal leadership styles and strengths, and then how to kind of uncover the qualities of other student leaders on their team, and then how do they take that when they're guiding small groups or large groups with their orientation leader roles. So both Active Minds and Leadership do have set curriculums. So that's just an example of what Leadership is doing for theirs.
I'll just add that the next step in this process in working with Leadership and Active Minds is they will be meeting with the co-chairs and the Speakers and Special Initiatives co-chairs to dig deeper into what this looks like for each location. So as that's being built, more and more information will be sent out to all of you. That's a great question. I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you both. So Joanna and Ian have asked similar questions here. I'm going to paraphrase this, but I think the question here is spring learning geared only for orientation leaders, or could this experience also be applicable to other transition type student leaders? For example, week of welcome planning student leaders, University 101 peer leaders, or other we'll say, orientation adjacent student staff? Great question from you both.
Yes, great question. Spring learning is not specifically for only orientation leaders. We would love student leaders of any kind. So if they're tour guides, if they are orientation leaders, if they're, doing the peer learning for a university class, all student leaders, the curriculum for our keynotes and for those peer-to-peer breakout sessions, there will be something for every type of student leader who is coming to the Spring Learning Conference.
That is great to hear, especially as we kind of broaden our scope to make sure we're focusing on the T and the R. So thank you, Melissa. If I missed anyone so far, please let me know. But moving on, Callie, question is, if we have an institutional membership, can that apply to each of our students to receive the member rates?
Yes, the answer is yes. Undergraduate students do not need to be members of the association. They can be part of your institutional membership. So yes, they would get the member rate.
Awesome. Y'all are asking great questions. Next question from Joshua. When thinking about session proposals, are there certain themes or cornerstones for spring learning similar to that of NODAC? Great question.
Yes, love this question. So feel free to use our conference theme, the next chapter, when thinking about your proposals. But yes, we are working on building out the spring learning website right now, and within the next week in preparation for registration going live. On the website, we will put our learning outcomes for both our undergrad and graduate students. Peer-to-peer sessions or educational sessions for those submitting proposals specifically for professional staff. You can use the core competencies, NODA core competencies as kind of your starting off place. And when you open up the ed session proposal, you will also be able to see those learning outcomes in the proposal as well. But that will be on the website here in the next few days.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Allison, too. Allison, our president-elect, is in the room, in case you did not notice. But Allison dropped in the website just as a reminder of where to find more information. But the next question might be for others in the room here is, do you all anticipate institutions will be bringing full teams / larger groups or leaning more into smaller leadership teams? Anyone who may have a perspective on that or maybe knows your plan from your institution, please feel free to chime in there. Or our planning groups, if you've heard, our planning chairs, if you've heard information on this as well.
I can speak for the University of Iowa. We're planning to bring our executive student lead team, as well as our orientation leader, kind of like squad, like leader type folks. So not the entire crew, but we're looking at bringing around 8 students, a graduate student, and then 2 full-time staff members.
Thank you, Connor. I'm also seeing some responses in the chat saying bringing 4 team leaders, bringing our orientation advisor leadership team of 10, UT Martin bringing our entire student staff of 24. That's awesome. George Mason, trying to keep up here. George Mason bringing a larger team of possibly 20. Go South Carolina bringing 45. We're bringing a whole bus load from Columbia. I love it. And let's see here. I thought I just saw Brown go by. Yeah, Brown University bringing student leaders across various orientation and pre-orientation programs, about 15. 2 student leaders, 2 professional staff. Towson bringing 10 returning returning orientation leaders and undergraduate interns. APSU, is that Austin P? Yes, awesome. Bringing 35 from Tennessee. And we're having a spring learning birthday party for Stephen. Yes, love it. Some still deciding. There is lots of great information here. So I'm seeing, just in reading the chat here, I'm seeing small groups of 4 up to 60 is, I think, the highest number I've seen. So I think we are all over the page, but that's a great question. Other questions, or if I happen to miss anything, because the chat was moving pretty quickly. If I've missed something, please ping me one more time here. KP.
Hey, Jeff. The answers to that last question just made me think of something. I think it was last year, if not the year before, at NODAC, during a conversation around the NODA internship process. I learned that several folks coordinate with their future NODA interns to potentially bring them to what would be the spring learning. Are folks still thinking about doing that?
Great question. Anyone care to share a response if you are or are not?
I can jump in and share that at the University of South Carolina, if it works within the timeline and we have successfully connected, we always try to bring them because it's a great opportunity for them to connect with a team that they'll be working with throughout the summer. But it's not always a guarantee whether they have things going on. Obviously, you know that. But if it works, yes. If it doesn't work, we'll still do our traditional introductions and hopefully share some of the spirit that would have happened in person at the spring learning opportunity.
Thank you, Allison. Others care to respond? Thank you for raising it, KP. It maybe made some people think about maybe we should include. So wonderful. I'm glad you raised that. There was a question about expectation for dinner since it is not provided, but programming going until 9 p.m. Joanna, it looks like you've provided one perspective there, but I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to chime in with in terms of how that schedule might kind of fall out in terms of a break.
Yeah, each spring learning conference will have at least an hour and a half break. I believe UC Irvine has 2 hours. Co-chairs, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone at least has an hour and a half break for dinner. The attendee experience leads for each conference location will do their best to provide some recommendations, places to go, near campus, especially for those wanting to accommodate some larger groups. But co-chairs, anything to add? Or any recommendations?
I'll add quickly for the virtual option. There isn't as much of a break for dinner. You're invited to keep the camera off, eat during the virtual conference is going on. So we do start a little bit later if you're on Eastern time. So come prepared with lunch. But we do have breaks throughout just to get a break from the screen itself. But that's for the virtual. I also wanted to make the point that if you do attend an in-person spring learning, you are still welcome at the virtual spring learning as well. And it might be a great option if you want to give your larger teams a valuable opportunity, but kind of have some logistical trouble getting to bring a large team physically in person. This could be a great option for you to look into as well.
Thank you, Stephen.
I have a follow-up question with that. I was just curious why the decision was made to not provide food. It's just if it's as big as it's been in the past, that's a lot of people to go around the campus to try to get dinner at one time.
It's due to costs, Elizabeth. We're trying to keep the costs down as much as possible. We also anticipate, especially in this first year, that the registration may not be as high as they have been in the past. So that's part of the reason. The other thing I also just want to add is we also are working with our hosts with some potential local sponsorship to help us with some of the food costs or food opportunities. So there's a possibility that we could, if we get sponsorship, we'll be able to add additional meals. So I'll just put a plug. If anybody has any options for either, a large scale company I'm even thinking about, we would love, Melissa and I would love to hear from you because those are also some options. But it really does come down to costs and trying to keep the costs down as much as possible, not only for our members, but also for the association.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on that? Okay, another question we have from Trent is, in future years, will it continue to just be 4 out of the 5 communities that completely lost it, that get a conference in the area plus 1 virtual, or is that just how it shook out this year? I'm referring to the fact that Southern Plains doesn't have a conference this year. So Joyce, you can do a better job of explaining this than I can, so I'm gonna let you talk on this one.
Sorry, I was reading the question. What's the question?
I think the question, well, I'll just shoot the answer. So yes, this year we have 4 obviously in-person events, 1 virtual. The plan would be that if you're looking at if you're looking at the place communities in terms of where they're at, they will not fall in the same place community every year. There will be some level of a rotation for that. Joyce, do you have anything else to comment on that?
Yeah, that is correct. We will be rotating. That was the recommendation from the ad hoc committee. We'll be rotating just about every location. The plan right now is 4 in-person and 1 virtual. Again, we're going to see how this pilot year goes and the interest level. But again, I want to reiterate that this is not geographically bound. Anyone can go to any conference anywhere. And I realize that may mean an additional hardship as far as travel costs are concerned. But keep in mind that we also do have the virtual option. That is one of the big reasons where we will continue to offer the 5th location as being virtual. So those who maybe can't travel would be able to participate in that way.
Thank you, Joyce. I think the next question is from Kayla on wheelchair accessibility. And it looks like this is specific to hotel accessibility concerns for a student who may use a wheelchair. I'm not 100% sure if we are fully equipped to answer that question, not knowing what the property is here. Joyce, do you have anything you want to add?
Right. I think one of the things that we in the registration will ask for accommodations that are needed. And if there is an accommodation, a wheelchair accommodation that's needed, we will make sure that any hotel that we're recommending will double check with them on accessibility issues at the hotel, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
Kayla, if we didn't hit the mark there, let us know, or if we can give you more detail. Other questions? Ian's asking the real hard question there. I'm going to let our co-chairs provide that feedback.
I will say, I think there was a Six Flags in Maryland that actually closed not too long ago or is closing. So sorry about that. But Baltimore has a very lovely national aquarium. Um, Very fun. They have a cool jellyfish exhibit, dolphins, very fun stuff. And yeah.
I know
There are
Emily and I
in
didn't
all of our
mention
locations.
it.
Oh, go ahead, Connor.
Um, we do have the Mall of America in Minneapolis, which does have Nickelodeon Universe inside. Luckily, the Graduate Hotel is steps away from the light rail that will take you directly into the Mall of America to go visit if you'd like. For a short daily fee, highly recommend it. It's a great time. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Connor. In the interest of time, I'm going to move us to having, I think, Melissa go through the timeline, and then we'll come back for some final questions. I just don't want to miss out on the time, the important date piece.
Of course. All right, so Ed session proposals open today. We should have an email out to all of you this afternoon, and website will have the link, and we'll be adding those learning outcomes to help you start to create your Ed session proposals. Registration opens next Wednesday, along with NEF applications. And then we have really quick turnarounds for January and February. If you are interested in being a peer reviewer, please submit that form. You'll be able to find that in the email that goes out today, and I believe it was in our notifications email yesterday. Ed session proposals will be due January 12th. And then decisions will be released about a week and a half later. So you will know by the end of January if you are going to be selected for a specific conference location. And then NEF application deadline is February 2nd, with final schedules released for each of the locations with all of the details by February 3rd. I will say for Ed session proposals, if you want to submit the same proposal and for it to be considered for in person and virtual, you can. If you are in what I refer to as a bordering state, so if you are in North Carolina and you are deciding between if you're going to attend Towson University or the University of South Florida, you would have to submit two different Ed session proposals to be considered for each of those locations. But if you're like, nope, I'm only interested in attending one specific in-person location, but also willing to have that session be considered for virtual, you don't have to submit an additional Ed session proposal. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, when you click on the Ed session proposal form, hopefully it will. So that is our timeline. It is also on our Spring Learning website. I don't know, Joyce, did you have anything else to say, or Jeff, as we wrap up our webinar?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for your engagement and excitement as we're excited in our pilot year. We really hope that you will submit proposals for potential multiple locations and virtual, of course. Continue to ask us questions. Reach out to Melissa or I at the association office. We're happy to answer your questions as we're rolling out the applications and the deadlines and registration next week. So thank you so much for joining us today and for your, like I said, your excitement and your engagement. I'm really appreciative of all the leaders and the volunteers that are stepping in to help us in our first year. Really excited for this. So thank you, everyone.
I know I promised one last opportunity for any final questions before we wrap it up. Well, thank you all. Thank you to our chairs, our co-chairs who are leading us through this inaugural process. It's very exciting to see so many people interested. I know I look very much forward to attending the Towson Spring Learning. So Candace, cannot wait to see your show up the road. But please, if you think of questions beyond our webinar today, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to provide you as much information as we can. And I certainly wish everyone a good holiday season and thank you for your time today. Take care, everybody.